Hi, welcome to this week's bonus clip. I've been joined by Conor Cronin and Rich Mifsud. We recorded this as part of our rep pod following the Leinster v Benetton match, which you'll find on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. Now, having gone over our feature match of the week, we've each chosen our own general topics, and we'll start with yourself, Conor. You want to harp on the Super Rugby Pacific kicking off next week?
Yeah, my wife kind of hates this time of year because between between URC and I'll watch Six Nations, of course, and then some mornings when I get up and the kids are just up that little bit too early, it's like, why not? Let's throw on a match at 6 o'clock in the morning as well. And
well, the sevens are on at 2 a.m. as well. If that interests you, they're playing over in Vancouver. Just make a 24-hour thing of it, you know.
I'm not going to try and
probably shouldn't have told you that.
Kids, no, and I'm not going to predict what time my kids are going to wake up this week. But there's plenty of rugby to be watched, which is brilliant. And I'll certainly be catching highlights of the sevens if I'm not up anyway. But look, Super Rugby kicks off. It's a very different competition. No, it's not the same as watching the URC or watching the top 14 or even the Premiership. It's much more reckless in a lot of ways, but it makes for some very entertaining rugby. And it's great to have it back. It's great to have that extra option at 6 o'clock in the morning. But one particular player I want to focus on this year is Cormac Daly, who will be playing for the Queensland Reds. There's not a lot of, I think a lot of the fans in this part of the world who'd be watching Super Rugby, we'll all take an interest and see how did the Moana Pacifica get on and how did the Drua get on, because we want to see how those nations are progressing. And a lot of teams will be looking at the four New Zealand regions and seeing how they go. But it's great to have a little bit of interest now and a little bit of hope for Australian rugby in the form of an Irishman. I think it's a great story. He's gone from playing for Clontarf and got a bit of an itch to go traveling during, as COVID was coming out, got the itch to go traveling. So he's moved to Australia where he was playing with Randwick. Randwick are a very well-established club out there. And while there, he helped them to their first Shoot Shield for nearly 20 years and got spotted by Les Kiss, who may have spotted him at previous stages because Daly was involved at Leinster underage levels. So he didn't go to a traditional rugby school. His success will have nothing to do with demographics and everything to do with hard work, determination, putting himself in the right place at the right time. I say he played for Leinster at underage levels, under 18s, 19s, 20s. He was part of the team that played against Chile in 2022. One of only, I think it was 4 or 5 players called up from the AIL to play in that game, and slot in very well. He was on the same under 20 side as the likes of Doris, Dan Sheehan, Ron Kelleher, Tom O'Toole. So he knows what's required, and it's a big step up to go from being in an amateur game to being a professional rugby player. But I think we've seen in the past how taking the traditional route doesn't always work for certain players. I don't want to put pressure on him by saying, sure, look what happened with Tyg Byrne, but look what happened with Tyg Byrne, a fella who coming through the regular route and things weren't working out. So he went off and he played somewhere else, and it was the makings of him. And I would be, I'm really hopeful that for whatever he wants to get out of this, that it's this kind of opportunity for Daly, that it is a chance for him to, if he wants to eventually come home and play, that he gets his opportunities by all this hard work. And it's great to say that Les Kiss is giving him this opportunity, and I think we should all be keeping an eye out. And every weekend, just put your Reds hat on for 80 minutes and support Cormac Daly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things about the success of Irish rugby in the professional era is that there's just basically so many players that when there's only 23 spots you can pick for the test team at a time, and only so many for each of the provinces, there's going to be other players who are going to have a decision to make. Well, will I stay and maybe hope to get into the team, or will I look at other options? I mean, some, like you say, some people want to travel, some people want to do maybe try out some other things, and he went a different route. You mentioned the case of Tyg Byrne. You also look at Hugo Keenan, who played with the Sevens, and other players have gone to other places, and it's good to have that kind of pathway. Like you say, I mean, he could make a success of it out there, and he could just be playing for the Reds and play there, see out the rest of his career there. For all we know, there's a lot of different options for him, and it's good to see that there is a place where players can go, even if they don't feel that they're going to make it all the way. And it's not the end. It's not the end of your career if you don't make it to the test team, which I think is the best thing out of that. Definitely.
And the one thing
I'll see how that goes.
The one thing I'll add is that I'd very much like Joe Schmidt to keep his hands off him.
There is that.
If he does start playing very well, he just needs to remember his roots. That's all.
Yeah, Les Kiss, don't talk him up too much when you're talking to Joe. Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, we're going to move on now to Rich, who wants to talk about a little special promotion the URC had going last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't often praise these large corporations for doing good things, but this one actually was very heartwarming. Probably because, as you all know, I come from a very small place, so grassroots rugby is very important to me. And it was good that the top tier of professional rugby, at least with the URC, should have this thing that they've dubbed the Origins Week, and it's an invitation to players and officials to wear their team socks, where they trace their origins from, their roots from. And it was, we all know that the Barbars do this and have done this for years. So obviously it's not that they've invented this, but it's good that they brought this into the league. I certainly welcome it because we all tend to forget that all these players who are playing at the top end of the scale all started as little kids in their little teams. So what I see this Origins Week as being is a huge shout out, a very public and huge shout out to all those small teams, those small team coaches who have mentored these top end athletes to where they are now. And I sincerely hope that the other professional leagues take a leaf out of this particular book and have their own Origin Week in their own leagues. The Top 14 and the Super Rugby and the Premiership, of course. So yeah, it was really good to see.
Yeah, and the officials were getting in on it as well. They were they had their own. I think the RDS Holly Davidson, she started as a scrum half with Murrayfield Wanderers, I think it was, and she was wearing her club socks. And you said the assistants were as well. And I think one ref in the Ospreys match, she had two different socks on. One might have been a club, one might have been a school. It's a really good idea. I mean, in America, they have promotions which are based towards the fans at baseball games, like Bat Day and Corn Dog Day and whatever that's for fans. But this is a one with meaning. It's like don't forget where you came from kind of thing. It is a really good idea. Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, now it's time for my bit, which is titled Clash of the Clashes. As you probably know, Ireland's third match of the 2024 Guinness Six Nations takes place at the Aviva Stadium on Saturday, February 25th, when our opponents are Wales. And across the Irish Sea, the days leading up to the match is known as Ireland Week. Before I get to my topic, I'd just like to encourage you to get on Twitter and use that hashtag. It's a great idea by Wales and Ivory Coast rugby fan Edward Jenkins. The idea is that the more we use this tag, the less chance other not so desirable ones beginning with Ireland can be trending. Anyway, as part of Ireland Week, I plan to interview Simon Williams, who is also a Welsh fan, and as well as writing for the website Glad Rugby, he's written a book titled Welsh Rugby, What Went Wrong, which, having read it, does exactly what it says on the tin. And while there are many different factors going into our Celtic brothers' numerous rugby issues, one of the biggest ones is the relationship between the clubs and the union since the game went pro, especially when the regions were established. The reason I bring that up is not just to promote our bonus podcast, which should post on Wednesday morning, but also to highlight my point for this rant, which is that although the transition from the amateur game definitely went a whole lot smoother on these shores, that's not to say we're without some, well, what would I call them? Complications between the clubs and the provinces. And in my humble opinion, we got a perfect example of those very complications just last weekend in Dublin 4. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you know perfectly well that there was a top-of-the-table clash at the RDS on Saturday between Leinster in first place in the URC and Benetton, who were second. We actually did a whole podcast on it. But as Holly Davison got the match underway, just up the road at the Aviva Stadium back pitch, there was also a senior rugby match with important playoff connotations. This was in round 14 of the 18-round regular season in the Men's All-Ireland League Division 1A, with third place Lansdowne hosting fourth place and reigning champions Terenure College. As well as being a crucial fixture in the league, it was also, of course, a Dublin derby. And as if that wasn't already enough to sell this match, there were also a lot of names Leinster fans will recognize from the fringes of the provincial setup, past and present, like Temi Lassie, Adam LeGrew, Harrison Brewer, and Jordan Coughlin. You could say a match like this, if nothing else, does a decent job of replacing the British and Irish Cup fixtures many Leinster fans enjoyed going to during the 2010s. So simply put, if you're a serious fan of going out and watching Leinster rugby, this AIL fixture would definitely be of interest to you. So why did it kick off a mere half an hour before things got underway, just a stone's throw up the road? Now already I can hear the voices screaming at their screens. The AIL always kicks off at half two, or the URC has to set its matches according to broadcasters, or why should one match move when it's clearly the other one that's the problem? But I'm not here to point fingers because in my view, the finger pointing is a large part of the problem. Wherever the blame lies, the net result is the same, and the Saturday certainly isn't the only time we've seen multiple matches which would interest the same group of fans take place at the same time. All I'm saying is that something has to give at some point. And at a time when clubs are trying everything to get bums on seats at their games and buying pints at lunches in their clubhouse, while those innovative social media team naming tweets are definitely entertaining and share-worthy, for me, a lot of that positivity is lost when over 15,000 potential bums are within reach, so to speak. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that a kickoff time of, say, 12:30 p.m. together with maybe a discount for producing your RDS match ticket would definitely get them all across, but it certainly would have been a cracking doubleheader for many fans, and surely it would have been worth some kind of outside-the-box thinking. But I'm going to leave it there. Those are decisions way above my pay grade. I'm just trying to give an idea of how it looks from the outside, which is kind of what we're here for, really. Many thanks to Conor and Rich for their time, and to you for watching. If you'd like to help us out, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Tune into harpinrugby.com for all of our content.